There are a series of votes in the Senate scheduled for tomorrow, including measures that could impact any real chance for moving forward on the Keystone XL pipeline, either with or without President Obama. There is bipartisan support for making that happen, but not everyone's on board. Earlier, I talked to Senator John Thune, a Republican from South Dakota, about where things stand on Keystone.
Well, right now, it's kind of stalled out, and we'd love to get a vote on it. And there's an energy bill on the floor right now, which we think should present an opportunity to debate the full range of energy opportunities that we have as a country, one of which, of course, would be Keystone. And it's an immediate job creator. The President's own State Department says it will create 42,000 jobs. So we think that voting on Keystone makes sense for so many reasons: jobs, the economy, energy security. But we've only had, if you can believe this, 9 votes on Republican amendments since July of last year. So the Senate floor, for all intents and purposes, has been shut down in terms of allowing Republicans to get our amendments considered. And obviously, the leader doesn't want to have many of his members, Democrat senators, vote on this issue, and other energy issues for that matter as well.
And he has said this week that it's like a shell game. He said, when I was a kid and I'd go to New York, you always lose, they play this game. He says the GOP is doing that with these amendments, with these various things that they've offered up. How do you respond to that accusation?
Well, this has become the Harry Reid one-man rules committee. All we're doing is being reasonable. I mean, we're saying, give us half a dozen germane amendments about energy. We're not demanding, which we could or should be able to in the Senate, to be able to vote on any amendment that we choose. But Senator Reid, he'll let you have an amendment if he gets to select it. But that's not the way the Senate's supposed to function. And I think the great evidence of that is 9 votes on Republican amendments since July of last year. That's about 1 a month. So we're not doing any meaningful business for the American people if their voices can't be heard. And we've got 45 Republican senators who would love to have an opportunity to offer amendments on Keystone and other energy issues that we think are critical to the economy and to our energy security interests as a nation, and we're not getting that chance.
I talked to your Democratic colleague, Senator Manchin, last week. He's very supportive and in fact is signing on to something that's specifically being offered with respect to Keystone. And he said there are a number of Democrats who actually want to have that vote. We know Senator Landrieu and others that we think about who are sponsoring some of these measures, and they don't like the perception that it is being delayed until after the midterms for political reasons. Do you think with some push from some Democrats in the Senate, that'll make any progress more likely?
If I was a Democrat in the Senate right now running for re-election this year, particularly in a state that's pro-energy, I would really want to have this vote. And for them, I think it's just impossible to defend the administration's position on this. 5 environmental impact studies, all of which have come back and said it would have minimal impact on the environment. 5.5 years now studying this thing. Make a decision, for crying out loud. I think that's all that the American people expect, and I think that there are Democrats in the Senate who would like to have that vote too. So when Harry Reid prevents Republicans from getting a vote on Keystone, I think he's also putting in peril a lot of Democrats who are running in states that are it's going to be very difficult to explain how their party in Washington, D.C. wouldn't even allow a vote on that issue.
All right, let's talk international issues now. Ukraine and Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin says they're pulling away from the border, things are cooling down. What's your assessment of the situation? Is he to be trusted in any way?
No, and I think he's pulling back a little bit because he's basically got what he wanted. But I think that the United States and our allies have got to do a better job of standing firm. And there are many of us in the Congress who believe that if we had more sanctions, sectoral sanctions, giving them support, anti-tank, anti-aircraft, small arms, communications equipment, things like that they could actually use to defend themselves, that those are steps that we ought to be taking. And there's a bill here that's been introduced in the United States Senate that would accomplish a lot of those things. Right now, the administration has been incredibly timid, and when you're dealing with a guy like Putin, he's just going to play on that timidity. And if he senses that there's fear and any hesitancy, that's the kind of thing that tempts a person like him.
Another round of sanctions announced by the administration this week. Is that not enough?
Well, it's not enough because, they added a few people to the list of folks that we're not going to allow entry into the United States, and we're sanctioning individuals, but we aren't doing the things that are necessary to get their attention in terms of the Russian economy. And I think that these sectoral sanctions that have been proposed is something that we should have done a long time ago, and there are many of us who believe that it's not too late to do that. So even though it's a little bit after the fact because he's already taken Crimea, I think he's gotten basically a lot of what he wants in eastern Ukraine. The West, the international community us and our allies, European allies, I think need to stand strong and stand firm and take some actions that are really going to make it clear that we mean business and that this kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated.
Senator, good to see you. Thanks so
Shannon,
much
very
for your time.
Great to be with you. Thanks.